Well, welcome back to the When I Heard This podcast. My name is Nate Robinson. I'm here with Pastor Joseph Tillman, MDiv, soon to be Demon. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good.
Great.
Turkey Day.
What? We did it already.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. We're lying. We're recording this before Turkey Day.
Turkey Day.
But must I say, it was delicious.
Because I know it will be.
My wife cooked up a storm because I made her.
Because that's what you do as a man.
Because Jesus told me to make her. And I submit to my Jesus. I do. Yes, sir.
All right. So please go listen to the first episode as well. All right. No, but I will say this about Thanksgiving. It is awesome because you get to eat and then watch football the rest of the day.
Yeah, while you eat.
Because
football is now on all day on Thanksgiving.
It's incredible.
Yep.
I mean, basically Thanksgiving in South Georgia is you shoot stuff in the morning.
Yep.
You come home and you eat.
Yep.
And then you watch football. I mean, it's like the best day.
And because it already happened, we know who won all the games already.
Right. We can start giving out some.
Yeah. We're in the future, and you guys aren't.
So strange. All right.
Cool.
Turkey Day.
Yeah. All right. Men more stuff.
Yes, sir.
Here we go.
Yes, sir.
I'm so good at this now.
Okay.
Go to Patreon, $5. Like, subscribe, share, comment, follow, download. You can follow the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at When I Heard This Podcast and X and locals at When I Heard This. Go to the website where there's t-shirts. Tell everyone that you know about the show and ring the notification bell.
Yes, sir.
Did them out of order than usual.
Yeah, it's okay.
Doesn't matter. I remembered all of them.
Hey, merch for Christmas.
Merch for Christmas.
It's
not already Christmas yet.
It is not.
We haven't passed Christmas already.
That's right.
Although we know who won all the football games already.
But merch for Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You can get them t-shirts and mugs.
Right.
And satchels and tunics and whatever the hell else we have on there. Yeah.
I don't know.
Shawls. When I Heard This podcast, shawl.
I don't think we got any shawls, dude.
Robes and
we don't
hijabs.
Yeah. No, we don't have soaps, right?
Yeah.
Like, no, we don't have.
You can get a When I Heard This podcast hijab.
You can't.
Right?
No.
Is that the right word?
I think you're not saying that right.
What's
Maybe
it called?
it is. We don't have that.
No, we don't.
No.
But we know who won all the football games. More men stuff.
Right.
Predator.
Gladiator. Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
The Expendables 4.
What? Oh, yeah, the Expendables. Yeah. That's some ridiculousness.
Yeah.
Absolute ridiculousness.
Jackass.
Never seen that one.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Men.
Yeah. Just men.
Yeah. The movie Men.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Don't watch that one.
Tombstone.
Does
that count?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I love Tombstone.
Tombstone. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Right.
Yeah.
Goodfellas.
Godfather.
Man, I could roll this stuff.
The Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, that's such a classic movie.
The Dark Knight.
Start just naming off every MCU movie.
The Lord of the Rings. Men.
Doing stuff.
What?
Right, yeah. I don't know. All right, anyway, back to the questions.
Okay. Here we go with questions.
Yeah, not back to the questions. Let's just start.
What is the role of men? This is just keep going from last time.
Okay.
What is the role of men in children?
Okay. All right.
Having. Not the act of making it, but when they're already
there.
Done.
All right. So weirdly stated. All right. So continuing from last time where we were in Ephesians 5 at the end of the episode.
Talking about men and wives.
Correct. And so now just moving to the next chapter, Ephesians 6.
Okay.
We'll begin in verse 1. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, because that is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you and that you may have a long life in the land.
What's the promise?
So the promise is that if you honor your father and mother, that you will have long life.
Oh.
Yeah. And you'll be blessed. So that's the promise that's attached there. So like if you're reading through the 10 Commandments in Exodus, that command has a promise attached to it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do any of the other ones have it?
Mm-mm.
So it's the only
It's the only command. It's the only command of the 10 Commandments that have a promise attached to it. Yeah. Obviously, if you keep reading, like for example, if you go to Deuteronomy, you're reading through all those commands. There's a lot of blessings attached, promises attached to those. But all right,
but those don't matter anymore.
All right. All right. Now time to go down that rabbit hole. All right.
Okay.
Verse 4.
Yep.
Fathers, don't stir up anger in your children, but bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord.
Why is that first part? Is that a huge thing?
Don't stir up anger in your children.
Yeah.
So I think it kind of gets to the idea of like, well, how would we stir up anger in our children?
I don't know.
Yeah. So I think one of the things,
shooting them with Nerf guns or something.
Well, I think it's, I mean, I think obviously we can annoy them to that point, but I think really what it's
leave Legos on the floor in their room.
No, it's the Legos that's in their room that is the problem for us.
Okay, yeah.
Oh man, I stepped on a Lego in my daughter's room the other day. I thought my whole foot was gone.
Yeah.
Like, God, it hurt. Anyway, fathers, don't stir up anger in your children. I think this has much more to do because of what it's kind of talking about, the idea of honoring father and mother, all that kind of stuff. I think it's getting into the idea of, so fathers, don't be like overly harsh with your children. But bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. In other words, there's a huge difference of like getting onto our kids. Like there's like the one approach of if I just scream at my kid, tell them not to do that somehow that's just going to take care of everything. Mm-hmm. And I think the idea of bringing them up in the training and instruction of the Lord is not that we're not firm, not that we don't have times where we're very firm with our children, but then we're also wanting to teach them the why behind the things. Teach them the why of the Lord. Teach them why we're telling them not to do this or to go and do this. And so, because at the end of the day, we're really wanting to shepherd their hearts. We're wanting to be able to, not just like dogmatically hammer in, do this, don't do that. Really what we're wanting to do is bend their heart or cause their heart to bend toward the Lord. By just sharing the teachings of the Lord, the instructions of the Lord. And again, not that we don't have times where we're firm with them, not that we don't spank them and discipline them, all of those things.
That's a whole thing.
That is, oh man. We should do like an episode on that.
Just spanking?
Well, maybe, or how to disciplining kids and stuff. Okay. Because I think, but because there's a lot of opinions on that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that.
Some people are like anti-spanking, like don't do it. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not in that camp. I think there's plenty of appropriate times to do that with our children.
Okay, well, you said that, so.
Anyways, so, but even in that, we do it in love, right? You don't just swat them with anger, right? Mm-hmm. So, and you get the whole lot.
Because that makes sense.
Well, hey,
I was spanked.
Don't spare the rod.
All right.
Anyway,
okay.
You were spanked. Yeah.
A lot.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Probably not good.
No. I was spanked at school.
Oh wow.
By Baptist.
Oh wow.
Principals.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, but in fairness, like even when I was in elementary school, like even in public school at that point in time, principals still spanked.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So like our principal had like paddles on the wall.
Yeah.
And so he just grabbed
mine.
He just grabbed one
with holes in them.
Bingo. Yep.
So that they could be more aerodynamic.
Yeah. When he pulled the one off the wall
and leave polka dots.
Right. when he pulled the one off the wall that had the holes in it,
Yeah.
you knew you were screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially the ones with bits of glass stuck in them.
What?
Yeah, those were the worst.
That's not that's not okay, Nate.
And rusty nails.
Where in the world did you go to school?
Florida. I'm just kidding.
I hope so. There weren't shards of glass and rusted nails.
No, it wasn't rusted nails. It was rusty fish hooks sticking sticking out of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, just kidding. But they did have holes in it, though.
Oh, yeah. Holes were definitely a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I get that. Like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That makes perfect sense.
It's unheard of now.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. If you,
yeah.
I mean, parents are afraid to spank their kids, much less a principal spanking your child in a public school.
Yeah.
That ain't going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It should happen, probably.
I don't know.
I've got thoughts on this, but
yeah. I don't like the idea of strange people touching my kid's butt. Seems kind of weird.
Okay, that's a whole nother area, right?
Yep.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
What if he likes it too much?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's gonna
not
be
the
part
kid,
of it.
the principal. Jeez. Wow. How come your mind went to the worst place this time? That's not supposed to happen. Oh, God.
Oh, Lord.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I don't know.
Oh, my God. Yeah, the kid's like, do it again. You call that a spanking? Oh, Joseph.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Jeez.
Oh, Lord. I can't breathe. Okay. Oh, but I will still say that discipline is needed. And maybe we can do like a whole discussion on discipline.
Discipline.
Okay. What discipline looks like.
Biblical discipline.
Biblical discipline.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And what that looks like. So I do think there's a role for it. Roll in there.
Is there a lot of how parents deal with their children in the Bible?
There's definitely, like, especially when you get into Proverbs.
Okay.
And so, like, you got Proverbs, you got, like...
Beyond the part where God told the guy to stab his kid?
Huh? Yes, beyond that part.
Okay.
You're talking about...
That's the only part I can think of.
You're talking about, like, when God told Abraham to go sacrifice Isaac?
Yeah.
Yeah, beyond there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we have a lot more to say about it.
All right.
Yes. And we could go to Hebrews chapter 12, and so...
Yeah. Okay.
About how the Lord disciplines, da-da-da. So, yeah.
Well, I don't know if we covered that, but...
Right.
I'll find out later, I guess.
We'll end this question with this then. I think that for me, when I look at scripture and talk about, like raising our kids with the instruction of the Lord, those kind of things. I think for dads, spending time with their kids.
Okay.
So investing that time, being intentional to share with the kids about the things of the Lord, talking about what God's doing in your life, talking about what you've learned about the Lord with Christ, making all that conversation part normal with our kids is a huge thing.
Okay.
Love our kids. And, the same way we talked about earlier in the last episode of husbands loving their wives by putting their wives' interest above their own. I would say the same thing. We do that with our kids, so we're investing the time, we're investing in them. We are loving them the best we know how. We're, teaching them the word. And I think that's, and we're disciplining them when necessary, right? And we do those 5 things, and I think we are moving along a really biblical pattern of what it looks like to be fathers to our kids.
What role are men supposed to play at church?
Okay.
And I know the answer is all of them, and that's the end of that question.
We're supposed to do all the things.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, not really.
Okay.
Men and women, we're in it. I mean, we all have gifts. We're all given spiritual gifts, and when the spiritual gifts are listed in 1 Corinthians 12, it doesn't say only spiritual gifts are going to men.
Yeah.
So I think that we recognize that all of us have gifts, men and women alike, from the Holy Spirit, and therefore I think that all of us should have a role and a part to play in church, that we're all participants and not just spectators, or at least that's what we should be. But I do think there are a few things that within church leadership that are specifically for men.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so in 1 Timothy chapter 3, it says, if anyone aspires to be an overseer, he desires a noble work. An overseer, therefore, must be above reproach, so have character, the husband of one wife. And so, in other words, remember, this is a day and time where a husband may have many wives. And so he's saying, but no, for in this case, a husband can only have one wife. They need to be self-controlled. They need to be sensible. They need to be respectable, hospitable, able to teach. And I think it doesn't mean you have to be like this great charismatic teacher. It just means that you're able to teach and give instruction, in the word. Not an excessive drinker, not a bully, but gentle, not quarrelsome, not greedy. And I think even when we were talking about last time about attributes for men,
Mm-hmm.
I think actually this would be really good. Even though this is specifically saying it's for overseers or elders, I think it's actually really good if men were to live by this, like to be, all right, hey, we're going to have character. We're going to be faithful to our wives. We're going to have self-control. We're going to be sensible individuals, not just be impulsive. We're to be, we carry ourselves in such a way that we're respected by people in the community, that we're able to, welcome people in,
Mm-hmm.
to the church, into our own homes, into our network of, friends. We know the word well enough to we're able to teach someone. Again, not that we have to be experts at it, but we're learning the word and therefore can pass that along.
Mm-hmm.
We're not excessively drinking. We're not a bully, but we're gentle. We're not quarrelsome. We're not always looking for disputes or to get into debates. We're not greedy, so we're not just after the money.
Not always, but you can sometimes debate.
No.
Oh.
No. Well, I mean, yeah. There's ways to debate, right? And
Yeah.
proper venues and times for that.
So this just means don't pick a fight.
Right.
Okay.
Right. He must manage his own household competently and have his children under control with all dignity. For if anyone does not know how to manage his own household, how will he take care of God's church? And again, I think this is just saying, hey, with our kids, we don't, kids are kids, right? They're going to play, they're going to run
Mm-hmm.
around. We're not saying they can't do those things. It's just that you're hoping that you're raising your kids in such a way that they're respecting you and all of that. And we understand there are strong-willed kids. There are, kids that are going to be defined, especially as they get older, right, into their teenage years. You're going to have, the rebellion and all that kind of stuff that can happen. We get that. But at the same time, that the husband, or that in this case, the father, is doing all that he can do, right? Because at some point, the kids develop enough free will and enough self-agency where they're able to make decisions for themselves, and we can't always control the decisions they make. But we want to care for our own household.
And this is talking about pastors.
This is talking about, what pastors / elders.
Okay.
That word pastor is literally used in the Bible one time in all of Scripture.
Yeah.
In Ephesians 4:11, it means shepherd. Elder also means shepherd. Elders are functioning as shepherds. So this is, referring to elders. So leaders in the church, pastors, some churches may call them that, or most churches call them pastors. Some people may call them elders.
So you do not drink at all, but this says don't drink a lot.
That's correct.
So why?
Yeah. So why do I not drink at all, or why does this say
both?
Okay. So so not an excessive drinker, and so in other words, not to be someone who gets drunk.
Was it? So it was expecting that they would.
It's saying you cannot if you want to be an elder.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So why do you not drink at all?
Why do I not drink at all?
If this verse says
you can drink
you
some,
just don't drink it.
Yeah. And what's interesting is Paul here, Paul, because he's writing to Timothy.
Yeah.
Right. In another place where he's writing to Timothy, he actually tells Timothy to drink wine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. For he apparently Timothy's having some stomach issues.
Oh.
And he's saying drink wine.
Yeah, that'll fix it
for the problems that you're having with your stomach. Right. But there was that idea that, hey, if you drink a little bit of wine, it actually will help your stomach, right?
Yeah, also try to bleed, let blood out of yourself too, and put these leeches on you.
Right. But, hey, even my granny was a big believer in just a little bit of wine every day was healthy for you. And so at the end of every day, she'd have just a little bit of wine, and she really thought that was healthy, keeping her healthy. So, man, she was living to her 80s, so must have been doing something well, right? Good. But then for me personally, it was just more of a conviction. So I just felt like I was called into ministry. The age of 20 was the last time I had even like a sip of alcohol. I was actually at my grandfather was getting married. My grandmother had passed away years before. My granddad was getting remarried, and I was actually the best man in the wedding. That was kind of interesting, but and so we were going around giving toast, right? And so we had champagne. That was the last time that I've had any sip of alcohol.
Okay.
So I've not had any sense. And it's just really, for me, it was just a thing of conviction of, hey, if I'm going to be a Christian leader, I don't want to drink in case I'm ever in a situation where I'm with someone and they're struggling with alcohol or alcoholism. I don't ever want to be a stumbling block for that person or make it more difficult for that person to be around me than it needs to be.
Okay.
So I don't have any issue. Like if I'm in, situations and people are socially drinking around me, not a problem. Like I don't have an issue with that at all. It's just that I just choose not to drink. So,
okay.
Yeah. And
because you don't want to make people with a problem jealous.
Not necessarily jealous. I just don't want it to be seen as like, if they're trying to recover, right, from, they're a recovering alcoholic or whatever it may be, I don't want to, and they're hanging out with me or they're with, our family at the house or we're out to eat somewhere. I don't want it to be awkward or weird for them, or even like they feel tempted or like, hey, this is my pastor. And, so like, for example, there's an individual that I've been discipling for years and he's a recovering alcoholic. Mm-hmm. Right. And so, and he knows that anytime he's with me, that won't be an issue. Like alcohol will never be around. Mm-hmm. And so it just, again, creates a safe environment for him.
So if you weren't a pastor, would your conviction be different?
It might be.
Okay.
I don't know. So for example, my wife does not drink at all.
Okay.
But that's because her father chose not to drink. Because his father was an alcoholic before he got saved.
Okay.
And so
I'm asking about this because this is a men thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so for me, if guys want to sit around and socially drink, not get drunk, fine. That's completely fine. But that's the conviction for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So men are called to be leaders, to spiritual leaders of the household of God. Okay. Mm-hmm. The churches of God. And so in verse 6, it continues on. He must not be a new convert. He might become conceited and incur the same temptation, condemnation as the devil. Furthermore, he must have a good reputation among outsiders so that he does not fall into disgrace in the devil's trap. And so again, men are given this call to lead in the church. And so I
this
think
is
that's
basically about all men in leading.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. For men leading.
So if you were hiring someone under you at church, you would apply all these things to that person?
Correct. Even if they weren't elders.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about all the way down to door greeter?
No.
Should that guy?
No, because again, this is asking. I mean, this is for those that want to be leaders,
like spiritual
leaders in the church.
Okay.
This is the call for them, right?
Okay.
So I'm not going to hold them to that standard, because even like the next group, it's right under this is the deacons.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they're more of like the individuals that help with the serving, like the serving aspect or the temporal aspects of the church. And
it's just the opposite of all the other ones.
No, it's not an opposite, but there's not as many.
Okay.
Stipulations.
Okay.
And so
they can be single and get drunk and
no. It says deacons likewise should be worthy of respect, not hypocritical, not drinking a lot of wine, not greedy for money, holding the mystery of the faith with a clear conscience. Not
drinking a lot of wine.
And we understand what they mean.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So, and so, for example, so that was 2 verses compared to 7.
Oh, okay.
From the previous. So I think that there's a very, specific thing toward them. And I guess it does go down and pick up in verse 12, a couple more verses. But
and door greeters must be carbon-based life forms.
No, but I think anytime we want to be actively leading in the church, there needs to be a character that goes with that.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. The way we live. So I think for men,
and all of these people are supposed to be men.
Now, for the spiritual leaders, the elders, yes.
Okay.
For deacons, there's debate, or whether it's, because in verse 11, when it's talking about the deacons, it says wives likewise should be worthy of respect. So in other words, is this referring to the deacons' wives need to be a certain way? Or is this referring to deaconesses, women deacons?
That's too much word.
Yeah. So for me, when I read all of this, it's clear. It's talking about men and women who are deacons.
Okay.
And so it's giving a space for women to be deacons here as well.
Okay.
Yeah. But not in the elder part.
Okay.
Not in the pastor part.
Okay, so we've talked about all of the things that men are supposed to be in all aspects of life according to the Bible thus far in these episodes.
Okay.
Everything you need to know about being a man.
I don't think we've hit that, but
we've touched on it.
Okay.
Especially the wings and the predator parts.
That's all that you're really concerned with. I'm not sure you've heard anything I've said.
Thou shalt watch Predator.
No, that's just okay. Whatever.
Thou shalt binge Lord of the Rings at least once a year. The extended versions.
Our family was literally just watching that yesterday.
Yep.
Yeah.
Of course you were.
I walked in the house and that's what was on.
That's why I knew you were so well prepared for today's episodes.
I've watched plenty of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Predator.
Right. Got a little Gandalf going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Feeling good.
We've talked about all that stuff, but how come no man ever, whether it's in the Bible or ever,
okay,
has ever even come close to any of this? Like Jesus didn't even live up to all these things.
What?
He didn't have any kids. He didn't be fruitful and multiply like we've talked about before. So, yeah.
Okay.
He didn't do that part, so he didn't live up to it. So no man ever has ever gotten anywhere close to being this good at being a man. So who is this ideal man?
Right.
And what's your perfect man?
What is my perfect man? What am I looking for in a man?
Yeah.
All right. So, but I mean, you're absolutely right about the fact that, when I look in the Bible, even like our patriarchs of the faith are messed up.
Yeah. Men suck.
Like you look at Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, all of that, right? Now, I think Joseph, actually, in Genesis 37 through 50, I think...
Oh, of course, him.
I mean,
wow.
Outside of having a great name.
Yeah.
No, but I think Joseph was a man that you could look to and go, that's an example. Now, when he was a kid...
He let another man impregnate his wife, though.
Joseph?
Yeah. Wait, are we talking about the same Joseph?
No.
Oh.
No, I'm talking about Old Testament.
Oh.
Like, where are you at? I was so confused. Okay. We'll get to that Joseph too. But no, Joseph, so you had Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Yeah.
One of Jacob's sons was Joseph. And so Joseph, though, now when he was a kid and the Lord gave him dreams about one day that his brothers and his father and mother would be like bowing down to him.
Yeah.
I mean, he spouted off the mouth a little bit. It was like, hey, this is what's going to happen. And then the brothers got all crazy jealous and threw him in a pit and wanted to kill him and everything else.
Yeah.
So that was like a stupid mistake he made when he was a kid. But then from kind of that point on, he was actually incredibly faithful to the Lord. And, so there was an opportunity he had where Potiphar's wife, made sexual advances toward Joseph, and, he fled. He didn't commit any, sexual immorality with her. So he stood as a man of integrity. And so you see Joseph's life is maybe an example of this guy actually lived life well. Samuel, the prophet, similar, was just faithful to the Lord from a young age on. And then, you can go to like John the Baptist. John the Baptist was faithful. So I think there's some individuals that you can look at and say, these men were faithful to the Lord. Mm-hmm. But then, like you said, there's a whole lot that just weren't, because even like...
None of them.
I mean, even like David, who is referred to as a man after God's own heart. I mean, even he, even he lied, committed murder, committed adultery. Like, he did all that. And so, yeah, you're right. You don't see a whole... I mean, because I mentioned, a handful of guys that you could, emulate. Enoch, who had like one verse about him. He walked with the Lord and the Lord took him, right? And that was it. And so, so yeah, there's a lot of men that just did not live faithfully under the Lord, and a whole lot that is very clear they didn't. And we're told in the ways they didn't, because even the early apostles, I mean, we see the flaws in Peter and in James and in John. Mm-hmm. And so, we see those things being worked out with Christ. So yeah, I agree. There's not, again, a whole lot of examples, but we do get to Jesus, right? Mm-hmm. And you're right. He did not have children, and you're right that he did not marry. Mm-hmm. So he was not a husband. And so you're right on those things. But as far as like a man who lived faithfully, I mean, obviously he did, because he was one who, never committed sin, even though he was tempted in every way that you and I are tempted. Okay. So if you can think of a way to be tempted, he was tempted in that way too. And so, but yet he chose not to sin. And I think with Jesus, we actually do get a picture of a man after God's own heart, a man of how we should want to live, that he does set an example for us of imitate Christ. And because we see someone that obviously is in tune with the Lord, following God, loving God with all of their being, loving others. And he actually also, in his caring and those kind of things, he was very much, caring and helping to provide for even his own disciples that were following him, And so, I think Jesus set an amazing example of a way to live life, quote unquote, as a man.
How come there was no like perfect example of woman in Bible?
That's a good one. But I would say there's a whole lot more examples of women that are faithful to the Lord in Scripture.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, it's funny, I've just never really sat and thought about it a whole lot. But like, if you look at the way that Ruth carried herself, you look at the way Esther carried herself, Deborah carried herself. I mean, you see these examples of these women, and of course, you talked about Joseph, Jesus' dad earlier, right? and obviously we don't know a whole lot about Joseph's life other than he was obedient when the Lord was speaking to him about, the fact that Mary was going to be pregnant, have a child, give birth to the Savior, right? And so,
sure.
Yeah. But I think an individual like Mary, I mean, Jesus' mom, is a great example. And obviously you have, for example, like the Catholic Church that really elevates and respects Mary. And I think we should respect Mary.
So there's more good women in the Bible than good men?
I think so. Especially
like consistently good?
Consistently good.
Okay.
Like, especially when you consider, now, not there's not flawed women, right? Because even when we talk about like Abraham's flaws, well, there's Sarah's flaws too, right? Like, often you can find them in both. But I think because it gives so many more descriptions of men and so many more stories of men, and their shortcomings, their failures are seen, and so there's not as many like highlighted stories of women where you get to see their journey for a long period of time. But when you do, you often see how faithful they are.
Okay,
and so I think that's a pretty significant difference too. So so I do think that you're right, but I think Jesus sets an example for both men and women, but obviously as a man in the way that he lived, in the way that even the way he honored his own mom before he did his first miracle at the wedding of Cana in Galilee.
Right.
Like his mom was like, hey, Jesus is going to help you with the fact that and this is kind of going back to the alcohol thing. Jesus is going to help you with the fact that you've run out of wine at this wedding. And Jesus is like, nope, Mom, I cannot do this. Like, it's not my time to be revealed, as a miracle worker, as the Son of God. And she just looks back at the servants and goes, do what he tells you. In other words, Jesus, now is the time.
Oh.
And it's interesting because Jesus then obeyed his mom and did that, turned water into wine. But all of that was actually initiated by his mom. And so he was even honoring of his own mother, when he was, about 30 years old.
All right. So why do men be such jerks to women?
Why are they such jerks?
Yeah. Why are they meanie heads to women?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So.
Is that the whole question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like in the Bible and still.
Okay.
Why haven't we figured that out?
Right.
And why do some of them suck?
Right. But not all men are jerks. You kind of paint them like all men are jerks.
Well, that's the phrase.
Is that all men are jerks?
All men suck. There aren't any good men out there.
But that's not true, though.
They're either taken or gay.
That's not true, though.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not true.
All right, okay, fine, most of them.
Okay.
Talk about those guys.
But I do like the question.
Yeah.
Because the reality is you have a lot of men.
Why are they so mean to women?
Okay, so you want to specifically align it with that?
Yeah.
Oh, why are they so mean to women?
Yeah.
I think it goes back to that domineering thing that men have in them, like to want to rule, to want to control. And so in Genesis, actually, it speaks about this. And so
right off the bat,
well, actually, it's related to the curse,
right?
Of sin's consequences. And so this is what the Lord said to the woman in verse 16 in Genesis 3. He said to the woman, I will intensify your labor pains. You will bear children with painful effort. Your desire will be for your husband, yet he will rule over you. And I think really from that point on, that's what you end up seeing. Ruling. Yeah.
Okay.
Is or domineering or being authoritative.
So why are men
whatever.
such evil rulers of women?
Yeah, I think when I'm kind of getting to it, I think it all goes back to this point.
Okay.
Where you had a sense of men and women that they were together, that there was a, when it talks about that, uses that word helpmeet, remember in Genesis 2, when it says that the woman would be a helpmeet, and really what it means is like she'll be like an opposite facing the other, and and so strength corresponding with or confronting. And so I think there's a sense of like, but that was not in an unhealthy way, right? Because it was neither of them, had a sin nature in them. They were not fallen. They were in perfect relationship with one another. Fall happens, relationship breaks. And so now that strength that Adam had is, now being confronted a little bit by Eve. And I think from that point on, that's what starts happening. And so he's not only wanting to rule over all of creation that he was given dominion to, but also rule over her as well.
Okay.
And that was never part of the original design, excuse me. And so the desire will be for your husband, the desire to be with him, desire to, to know his comfort and strength. And it goes, yet he will rule over you. In other words, the relationship is broken now. So now he's going to try to rule over you just like he is over all the rest of creation. And to make matters worse, now his work is hard because, the Lord curses the ground.
Because she doesn't listen.
Bro. Hold on. Good Lord. All right. The ground is cursed because of you, and you will eat from it by means of painful labor all the days of your life. So, in other words, now you're going to have to work hard, right?
Right.
And so now you've got, now the man has to work. Now he's wanting to rule. Now there's all this sense of this is, I'm in charge. This is what I have to do. And it kind of gets back to that woman, serve me, woman, make me feel better, woman, alleviate some of this stress, pressure, angst, whatever I may be feeling. And I think sometimes that's what we're hoping for out of a woman, is for her to come alongside of us and help make our lives easier, more comfortable, whatever it may be. But the reality is that we're supposed to be, going on this, side by side. She's not just a servant for me to make my life easier or more comfortable or do certain things so I don't have to do those things,
Okay.
And so for me, I think that's again, a big part of this. And so,
but aren't men there to make their lives easier?
Mm-hmm.
So our lives are never supposed to be easier.
But I do think we enjoy our wives, right? We enjoy, hopefully you enjoy their company, both, emotionally and sexually and everything else. Like, hopefully there's an enjoyment there. So it's going both ways because they're having children, Lord willing, and
so all the
raising
stuff about
those kids.
God last week, about how we're supposed to, way last week before Thanksgiving,
right? That
we're supposed to have feel like our work that we do is better because Jesus is taking care of part of it or whatever. That's where we get our lives being easier. We submit to Jesus and then
okay. And I know that like in Ephesians 5, we talked about how hard it is for like how much work there is there for the male, right?
Yeah.
In relation to the wife. But remember, so often, the women are, and it is different in our day and time too, right? So for example, in this day and time, women are caring for the household. The women that's their charge, right? Like, so they're going to be caring for the kids, raising the kids,
right.
And often teaching the kids. That was kind of their role, quote unquote, right? And so you kind of had those defined roles in our day and time. A lot of women are working as well, so you have a lot of men and women needing to both work and both provide for or both care for the kids, both take care of the house. And I think sometimes it works beautifully, and sometimes that doesn't work so well. And the woman sometimes is often left with still having to go to work, come home, take care of the kids, make sure they're bathed, make sure they're fed, make sure the family's fed. Like, and then, you know, and again, in other situations, it's much more, you know, complementarian, you know?
Right.
And so, or egalitarian, whatever you want to call it, in regards to men are also helping, right, with the kids, with the food, that kind of thing, even though they're working as well.
Okay, so in today's day and time, how do you think men are horrible to women when it comes to relationships or whatever and marriage?
Right. Well, I think one thing too, and that's probably always been true, even back to, not I think, it's always been true about it here. One of the things that men can do is reduce women down to being just sexual objects.
Okay.
Right. And so then it really is just about what they can get from that person.
Sexually.
Okay. Right. And so, yes, I enjoy your companionship because we have sex. Yes.
So how do men not think like that?
How do we not think like that?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we don't have to think we shut off the sexual part of our brain or our being. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is that they're more than just, like, women are more than just a sexual object.
Okay.
And so, and how do we get to that point? We hope, well, of course, I'm going to speak from a Christian perspective, right? They're image bearers of God. They're made in the image of God. They need to be treated as image bearers of God. They need to be respected as image bearers of God. They need to be, you know, valued as image bearers of God. So that's, you know, not only bearing God's image, but, you know, they're his creation. You know, for those that are walking with the Lord, they're his daughters. Mm-hmm. And so we want to be those that are caring for his creation, caring for his and honoring his daughters. And so I think that's for me as a Christian, that's kind of the perspective I would want my own. You know, I've got two boys. I want my boys to look at women that way, right? Mm-hmm. Not just as individuals to fulfill sexual desires, but individuals that are to be valued, that are to be, you know, honored and cared for, and cherished. And so again, I'm not asking for the sexual part to be turned off. I'm just asking for them to be seen as more than that, and not just that, and not that that's even their primary value.
Okay,
right?
So let me ask it like this. Okay. Like, when you marriage counsel and the man's the problem, what's the most common problem?
All right, I'll say this. Number one, stubbornness.
Okay.
I think stubbornness is a big deal. Like unwilling to change.
Okay.
This is who I am. This is what I do. This is what I want.
Okay.
She needs to get on board. Right?
All right.
Especially if they're like the primary provider, mm-hmm. that comes across pretty heavily. Like, I provide all this for you. You should be appreciative. Okay. And so there's an unwillingness to see that their spouse is wanting more than just a provider. So I think that's probably that's one part of it.
Okay.
Two, communication. Men suck at communication, but women can suck at communication too.
Nuh-uh.
I know, you're perfect at it. And I think that
communicate goodly.
Wonderful. All right. And so, no, but I think that's a big part too, is the communication.
Okay.
You know, and one thing could be not communicating expectations.
Okay. What about spiritual stuff?
Okay. Now that can be a real deal too.
Okay.
And again, it can go just simply back to the man not taking seriously his own walk with Christ.
And what does that look like when it plays out?
So to like extremes, it can look like the man doesn't value really spirituality at all, or God at all, or let me rephrase that.
But I mean, in the relationship.
Right. In the relationship, it can bring tension, because especially if the woman is wanting her husband to be more involved at church, wanting her husband to be, come to the things the kids are at church, that kind of thing. And, especially if the husband's response is, well, I'm working, or I can't, or Sundays is my only day off. I don't want to waste it at church. I want to go fishing. I want to go to the golf course. I want to watch football, whatever it may be, right? I want to sleep in. So I think that's kind of where the resentment can start building up a little bit, where the woman feels like she's carrying all of the load spiritually. Of if our kids are going to have any kind of Christian values or know any of the scriptures, it's going to be because I'm taking them to church or I'm reading, the little kids' Bible stories to them or those kind of things. And that the husbands aren't doing any of those things with their children.
Okay.
Or in the home. So, yeah.
Okay, well, this men stuff is taking way longer, way longer.
Way longer.
This might take us past Christmas football games. Yeah, we might know what happens to those games beforehand.
Well, that'll be
football. Yeah, man, stuff.
I do like football.
Cool.
Yeah.
Man, I'm going to have to edit this one.
Big time, dude. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Or not.
Please.
Okay. Oh, my. Oh. Yeah. When we're 80 years old and done with the podcast, we'll release that snippet from
from the archives.
Yeah, from the archives, just to see what happens. I'm still talking about it, and I have to cut this part out too. Probably not. We'll just leave it there.
It's fine. People can wonder what the world we're talking about.
Yeah, we'll release an extended cut somewhere or something.
The unedited version.
Yeah, like the Lord of the Rings.
Goes on forever.
Yeah. Well, go to Patreon, $5, like, subscribe, share, comment, follow, download. You can follow the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at When I Heard This Podcast, and X and locals at When I Heard This. Tell everyone that you know about the show. Ring the notification bell. Go to the website where there's t-shirts. Christmas is coming up. You know you want a t-shirt.
Yeah, you do.
Or a tunic.
Oh, okay.
Men. Sorry. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Nate Robinsoff, and you can follow Joseph on Instagram at
Rev Joe T.
This has been the When I Heard This Podcast. And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Predator.